Hi, and welcome to this week's Public Interest Technology Colloquium. We're spoiled this week, two presentations by two fabulous women. The first presentation is titled Zanie and the ROI, the Return on Investment of Conversation. My name is Katina Michael. I'm a professor in the School for the Future of Innovation in Society and the School of Computing and Augmented Intelligence. And I'm also the director of the Society Policy Engineering Collective at Arizona State University. Today, our first guest is Jumana Abu Ghazaleh, the president of Pivot for Humanity and the founder of the Zanie app. She brings with her her team, and I'd love her to introduce her team, but if I don't steal her thunder, we have Lisa Mandel, Adib, Tarek, Samar, Lisa, and the Zanie team of developers and conversation engineers and user experience designers. Pivot for Humanity is bringing home an incredible message to everyone. They state on the front page of their website, Silicon Valley is breaking the future, and Pivot for Humanity has the solution, professionalization, but we need your help. We're focused on the root cause, and if you read on about the root cause, it's this notion of going against the grain of moving fast and breaking things and being more deliberative, looking at universal ethics, norms, and values towards this notion of professionalization. Medical doctors and engineers have been there before, at least 100 to 200 years before us at various stages. Why not the rest of us in the tech sector? Jumana's been a guest on many podcasts. She's a well sought after speaker, but I would like you to go and listen to The Joy of Missing Out, JOMO, which will keep you entertained and get to the guts and the heart of what Jumana Abu Ghazaleh is about. She also runs a podcast with the assistance of the interviewer, Lisa Mandel, called What's Betwixt Us. Go and listen to the 30-odd interviews that have been painstakingly put together with the greatest amount of joy. These are all about empathy in the workplace. And if we look at this in totality, that's what Zanie is about. It's about providing the building blocks for a work culture that thrives. If you connect with people that you work with, your productivity is sure to skyrocket. So that's a bit from me. And now I'd like to also point you to the many, many various recordings that Jumana has generously volunteered her time to at ASU, whether it's been the IEEE ISTAS 20 gathering, where she did a full-length pre-record presentation and also a podcast to Lisa Mandel, right through to my own course in the Public Interest Technology 502, Co-Designing the Future, where she reached out to my students, whether it's appearing in person, live, synchronously in a guest lecture, as she did only a few weeks ago, to my current CSE 598 Smart City Infrastructure and Technology, or the Public Interest Technology Network last year, PIT-UN, which is back in town next week on the 2nd of November at Arizona State University with the New America think tank, or it's been the AAG, where she's talked about geoethics and professionalization in the GIS scientific realm. She's constantly giving of her time, and today she gives once more at this colloquium. I'd like to stop sharing and welcome Jumana today.
Thank you so much, Katina, for that humbling introduction. I am very excited to be here. Let me get the technology out of the way.
And we're so excited to have you. I mean, we have conversations at least every other week, if not more regularly. And I think the stimulus and the aura about you, Jumana, just rubs off on those people you collaborate with. So now that we can see your presentation in full, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here with my colleagues. I will introduce them to you a little bit later on in the presentation. I'll be doing most of the talking, but don't let that fool you. It's in conversation and in communion with my team that the idea and execution of this talk was developed. And honestly, I hope to make them proud as I share our learning with you. We're here to share some of our research and our insight and our own lived experience as colleagues in this emerging, uncertain COVID-influenced, tech everything world. And I want to start with the most important thing that I've learned personally in the past 2 years of working on this. And it is this: when we show up for work, we are actually showing up for each other. We do the work not just to do the work, not just for ourselves, not because of blind ambition, not just to get paid or because we have to. We do the work even when the work is hard and unforgiving, unrewarding, and unrelenting. We do the work because we are a team and we are in this together. There's a greeting in the Zulu tribe that I find beautiful. And when I first read it, it took my breath away. Sawubona. It means literally, I see you. I see the whole of you, your experiences, your passions, your pain, your strengths and weaknesses, and your future. You are important to me and I value you. All of that in one gorgeous word, sawubona. It's a way to make the other person visible and accepted as they are, an invitation to a deep witnessing and a presence, a seeing that is essential to human flourishing, because when we really see people, we can no longer treat them indifferently or inhumanely. We see who they are and feel compassion. Seeing then becomes a basic form of respect. It acknowledges that we are more than ones and zeros, that we are complex and multidimensional, that no two of us are alike, no matter how similar we seem. That we are more than ones and zeros, and that the only thing that is actually identical, things that are identical, are manufactured. They're not natural. Just look out your window. Look at two flowers. No two are identical, no matter how alike they look on the surface to the incurious eye. Joseph Stalin famously said, "A single death is a tragedy, while a million deaths is a statistic." I want to repeat that. A single death is a tragedy. A million is a statistic. Why? Because we feel empathy and compassion to humans, to individuals, to people, not to statistics. And behind each death is a whole universe that disappears when we reduce people to statistics. Statistics, simply put, dehumanize. Statistics, numbers, big data can too easily be used to obscure the tragedy of death, to strip the dead of their individuality, of their dignity, their stories, their humanity. Big data makes us less curious about the dead, not more, in the sense that it serves to relieve us from the burden of processing the true weight of their death. We don't have to know much. We don't need to know who they are, who they left behind, what their lives looked like. All we need to know is that there were many of them. And that, statistics say, is enough. This isn't only true in death, it's true in life too. And it's increasingly true in modern life. When we stop seeing people as individuals, unique beings, when we reduce people to statistics, we lose our ability to relate to them. We lose our understanding, our compassion. When we focus on data, the people, the places, nature, and the beautifully personal experiences and artifacts disappear. They fade into the background. They become invisible. And all that's left is ones and zeros. That's the risk we run in a tech everything world. Big tech flattens our dimensions. Big data obscures our nuances and obfuscates our inherent uniqueness as individuals with different lived experiences. Big tech says, at the end of the day, we're nothing special. None of us truly matters because none of us really stands out from anyone else. After all, we're just data points. And even though I'm nothing like my siblings, nothing like my sister or my neighbors or my business school class or my high school class, big data doesn't care. It doesn't care about who I am or who you are. It only cares about what it can get from us. And that is whatever it deems enough to lump us into neatly packaged and labeled groups. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the term snowflake generation. It originated with the movie The Fight Club, and in 2016 was one of Collins English Dictionary's words of the year. Collins defines the snowflakes as, quote, the young adults of the 2010s, born from 1980 to 1994, who are viewed as being less resilient and more prone to taking offense than previous generations, end quote. It's a derogatory shorthand to refer to millennials, a generation said to be easily offended, attention-seeking, and weak. All 72.1 million of them. I have a strong point of view on this. I believe millennials were given the derogatory descriptor because they were onto something. I have 9 millennial nephews and nieces. They are by no means perfect. They are not saints, but I promise you that they are radically different from each other. Yes, they want to be seen. They want attention, but not any more than you or I or any person of any age does. What's different about millennials is this. They are the first generation to grow up truly digital, which is to say, to grow up as statistics. Millennials are the first commodified generation. They were molded by technologies that define their worth by the depth of their engagement and addiction to tech. They were being groomed from a very young age to hide behind the numbers. They were being erased, rendered invisible by big data, by big tech, that said that they were just the sum total of numbers. And if the numbers are small, if you don't get enough likes or shares or swipes or comments or emojis, then your life too must be small. It doesn't matter. It's not important because it didn't go viral. Nothing is real if you don't post it, and nothing is important if it's not tapped, swiped, shared, or viral. And if that's not pressure to fight to be seen, I don't know what is. The image you see on the screen is from a series of ads from the British Army. They use it to appeal to millennials. And this one act of seeing people, not just as numbers, allowed them to reach a record-breaking number of applications in a single day, which makes it really clear that being seen matters at work. It matters everywhere. It matters where we spend our time and energy. It matters where we meet people. It matters where we learn and we grow, where we are challenged, where we seek purpose. And a lot of that time, that place is work. And what the pandemic has revealed is just how much we value being seen, being witnessed, being valued. I know that when I feel seen, I'm more likely to see you and see the value that you bring to my day, to my work, to my life. And I know that the fact that my team on this call, Adib, Lissa, Sam, and Tarek, which you'll meet later on, see me as a whole person and not just a series of outputs. That has a massive impact on how I approach my work. I care more and I want to do right by them. Apart from the individual effect, it's a small thing that can make a massive difference in elevating company culture. Connection benefits everyone. And yet, how often do we generally see and connect with each other in the workplace? These days, in a post-COVID world, not enough. And it's not just the young. Across the board, we're lonelier today as a species. You know why? Because we're human. We're wired for connection. And make no mistake, ubiquitous, always on digital connectivity is no match for purposeful human connection. Connectivity is not connection. Always remember that. So what's the consequence of this? What happens when we feel alone in our work? No surprises here. When we feel alone in our work, we don't live up to our potential, individually or collectively. We don't try as hard. We don't care as much. We don't dig deep enough. And that's reflected in the bottom line. Innovation drops, effectiveness drops, collaboration drops, efficiency drops. When we feel we're in something alone, when we don't feel seen or supported, when we're isolated, we give less of ourselves. It's only human nature. The best workplaces, research tells us, are those where employees look forward to coming to work and where they care about each other in the workplace. But here's the thing. What does it mean today to be at work, to go to work, to have a workplace? We spend a lot of time at work, but now work doesn't signify a physical place anymore. It doesn't come with collegiality baked in, with casual exchanges baked in, with shared contexts baked in. The nature of work is changing. We're spending more time behind screens instead of in the hallways, at the coffee machine, in the elevator, in the conference room, or at the lunch break or the company outing. And what happens is this: a psychological and emotional sense of detachment accumulates little by little at the subconscious and unconscious levels as people trade time actually purposefully, thoughtfully interacting with each other, seeing one another, talking with each other, for time spent on what's been called screen skating, looking at project management tools, calendars, messaging apps, collaboration apps, hitting like and quick posting emoji responses. When we trade that for human contact, We think that the sum total of our work becomes the work itself and not the people behind it, because we can't see them. All we see them are as names on a calendar. RuPaul, an American entertainer, said something I find really profound. They said, we're all born naked and all the rest is just drag. What this means is that drag is self-definition, it's self-expression. It's an effort to be seen for who we are. Drag is what we do with what nature has given us. It's everything from the colors we choose to the makeup some of us wear, to the art we buy, the type of eyeglasses we choose, to the acronyms we use, the tweets we send, the posts we share, the way we wear our hair. It's a poem. It's all drag. Drag is everything we do to communicate who we are. Drag is simply a request to be seen, a request for sawubona. And what RuPaul is actually saying is that it's all part of the human condition. This isn't true just for a subset of people. It's true for all of us, every single one of us. We all need to feel seen and valued. And we all work at this every day, all day, consciously and unconsciously. We want to be recognized for our inherent uniqueness, for our diversity, for our neurodiversity, for our snowflakeness, for being a person and not a statistic. Why did the British Army campaign succeed? Because it acknowledged that millennials were not just numbers, faceless, homogenous, and easy to dissect and label en masse, and by implication, worthless. What the campaign's success tells us, no matter what we believe about its motives or the institution behind it, is that people want to go to work in environments that believe that they are individuals, not data points, human beings, not statistics. And that's why, for the past 5 years, we've been working on building Zanie. To survive, let alone thrive, in an increasingly intermediated, digital, and distributed workplace, workers need a sense of true community, not just engagement, not just fun, not just values alignment, not just purpose. When we are at work, in order to be our best, in order to give our best, we need sawubona. We need to see each other, each one of us, even the shy ones, even the reluctant ones. We might not want to be on stage, but we all want to matter and to be seen. And this seeing doesn't happen at the organizational level. It doesn't happen at scale. It happens at the group or small team level. Let's start with the top left. It's great and very useful to have a mission and a vision. They're important. They provide a North Star, but they don't provide the map showing us how to reach it. Mission and vision provide the what, but not the how of community, which moves us on to the bottom left, which collaboration tools and tech like Zoom and Slack, which are designed to make it effortless and frictionless to communicate no matter where you are, no matter what time it is, but not to really foster human connection. Here we have the how of connectivity, but not the what of connection. And then there's the physical space on the bottom right. To date, that's where we've married the two, the what and the how. In the physical space, around the ping pong tables and happy hours and group meetings, around lunch and the conference table. But the more we use tech, the less we invest in those activities, and the less access we have to one another in the physical world, the harder it is to form connections with each other. Which brings us to Zanie. Zanie has one and only one very important job, and that's to remind people in the digital world of each other's humanity, to create curiosity among them about one another, so that when they're invisible behind their screens, they're still seen. How? Through conversation. It's simple, really. Zanie helps facilitate meaningful, insightful dialogue between team members on a regular basis, giving them an opportunity to learn about each other and see each other in new ways with fresh eyes. I'll let the product speak for itself.
The way Zanie works is simple. At the same designated time every week, Zanie will appear in each team member's DM with a dynamic prompt question. These varied questions are designed for everyone to shine and to share their unique points of view. Each team member has the opportunity to go with their gut and answer right away, or to take their time and contemplate. Now let's look at the experience from one unique user's perspective. Meet Frank. Let's follow him as he answers a question. After answering the question, Zanie will give a nod of encouragement. Once at least 2 people have answered, Zanie will open a special discussion channel for the week's topic and populate it with everyone's responses. The weekly discussion channel creates a gathering space for organic conversation to unfold, like a digital dinner party. Questions are designed to showcase not just how people think and work, but also what they value and care about. This approach allows people to find different ways of connecting and engaging with one another. And just like that, trust builds organically. We already have the answer inside us. Zanie just helps bring it out. The way Zanie works is simple. At the same designated time every week, Zanie will appear in each team member's.
Let's see how we can move you on to the next slide here. I'm not sure what happens. Can you see it? Yes, thank you. So you had the voice of the wonderful Lissa Mandel there. But the mechanism may seem simple, even simplistic, but it's built on a really rigorous 4-dimensional patented trust building model that's grounded in social science, behavioral psychology, and philosophy. For example, the experience sits on top of a carefully honed and curated question database designed to build trust over time by fostering progressive reciprocal self-disclosure, which isn't how the internet works today. The internet is a broadcast medium. You tell lots of people one thing at the same time and don't expect real conversation to come from that. Another distinguishing characteristic is that Zanie has been designed from the ground up with ephemerality and privacy in mind. The questions, along with the conversations they generate, disappear each week because the point isn't to have a log of what's being said, not to have a record of everything everybody said, but to give people a sense of one another, a feel for each other. There's plenty more I can tell you about this model and how it was built. But I know that I've done a lot of talking already. And there's an incredible group of people here with me, and we all look forward to having a dialogue with you. So I want to tell you a few words about them before we move on to the Q&A. Sam, our creative director, you can see her incredible talent in the presentation and in the product itself. It is her artistic vision that makes Zanie interesting and compelling. If you have any UX or UI or design questions, she's your person. She's also very much an introvert who speaks mostly through her work, but when she speaks, we all listen very, very carefully. Then we've got Lissa, you've heard her voice. She's our conversation curator. She breathes life into Zanie by designing, evaluating, and curating the question experience and all of the interactions Zanie facilitates. Lissa makes the art of conversation seem easy and effortless because she's doing all of the hard work in the background. She's the yin to Sam's yang, an extrovert who manages to bring out the best in people. You should listen to her podcast. Lissa mentioned that. You'll see what I mean. Adib is our CTO. Without him, there would be no product, period. His obsession with privacy, security, and transparency made Zanie possible, and they play a huge part in why we all believe so much in Zanie and what she can do for teams, and why we are so proud to be here today. He's one of the most thoughtful human beings I know. And last but not least, Tada is our product manager. He's the boss of all of us. Without him, there would be no company. He makes sure the trains run on time, on budget, and are headed in the right direction. He's excellent at herding cats, and he's very punny. He loves puns, so you can never really be mad at him. Thank you so much for seeing us. Happy to be here with you.
Jumana, can you repeat the last bit?
What's that?
Can you repeat the last bit?
That you're punny?
I'm sorry, y'all.
We're all here. We're Sam, Adib, Lissa, and Tada, the excellent team, the team that sees me day in and day out. I hope I see them too, are here. We can answer any questions about the product, about how it's built, about why it's built, about why its time is now. If you have any questions about how it works, the research behind it, anything, we're here to answer them.
Okay, I think we could stop sharing there, Melissa Waite, and possibly spotlight Lissa Mandel and also Sam and Tarek and one more person. that special person, Adib, of course, the CTO. It's great to have you with us. First of all, this happy, bubbly group of people that are on a mission to get people talking. And so this is my first question, if I can hog the floor for a moment. We're using a bot in Slack to try and encourage human-to-human conversation. Tell us, who thought of that idea? How did it come to fruition? And why does it work?
The idea came because we are spending a lot of time using digital tools, and in our view, that train has already left the station. There's no stopping it. Telling people to get off technology is not the answer. It's exclusionary. So what do we do? How do we build humanity into the technology we're already using? And so the focus was, all of these tools designed to create efficiency exist, but are there any that are designed to actually remind people of each other's humanity and make them talk? There are tools that make you manage your time, make you manage your calendar, make you schedule things, make you track your budget, but there aren't any tools that say, talk to one another. Zoom and Slack are tech tools, they're connectivity tools. They open the channels of communication, but they don't support the dialogue that happens in between. And so, a bot as a way to say, simply to pop in and say, remember, there's another person, and pop back out. That's the role we see for Zanie. Melissa, I don't know if you have a.
Yeah, I think that, everybody remembers Clippy, right, from Microsoft Word in the 90s, and nobody really liked Clippy because it was a little invasive. And I think that the reason why Zanie is so effective is because it brings in a little bit of warmth, right, without anthropomorphizing this bot too much, but it is a little bit of warmth and sort of just a catalyst and a connective tissue so that people can have just some sort of a host to kick it off, a spark, basically. So it feels a little bit less cold and a little bit more familiar to have a bot spark the conversations that ultimately will just be carried out by the humans involved.
I think it's important to remember that conversation is actually really difficult. I mean, there's a reason it's called, an art. There's an art to conversation, and there are people who are better at it than others. So some people, saying start a conversation is as intimidating as staring at a blank page. You have to think of topics. And in the digital world, where you don't have shared context, where you can't point to something and then talk about it, where you don't have common ground, it's very difficult to initiate conversation. And all the role of the bot is simply to give you some context around which to connect.
Mm.
What if I was to pose a scenario to you, Lisa and Jumana, and say this was a conversational agent? Looks a bit like Alexa, but it's a water bottle. Let's say it was a water bottle in disguise, and it was a conversation agent. And I put it down on my desk, and so I don't feel so lonely, I talk to my conversational agent. How are you feeling today? What's the difference between no good?
No.
Tell me.
I would say it's a conversational lubricant, because if it's there, then it gives us something to talk about. Mm-hmm. So it serves as a way for you to connect with me. I might talk about its color or its shape, or it might remind me that I'm thirsty and I might say something. But the dialogue is still human to human. We talk about it or about something it makes us think of to each other. There's a big difference in saying conversation between two people helps develop understanding and compassion and widens your field of vision and understanding. It is not, the intent of Zanie is not to give people an opportunity to talk to themselves or to hear themselves talk. It is an opportunity to think of it as a window through which they can see another person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go ahead, Lisa, please.
That it's sort of in lieu of, when we're in person, if somebody was, wearing something interesting or, eating something interesting at lunch, there would be a seed planted already that you could use as a jumping off point for a conversation. And when you're working remotely and you don't have that physical context, Zanie just drops a seed, which is a question or a prompt of some kind. That yes, the purpose is not I want someone to talk to and it's Zanie. It's I want someone to talk to, and so Zanie is facilitating the bonfire around which we can talk as people.
So let's consider this inanimate object that I'm talking to. You don't hurt me. I get up in the morning, you say hello to me. You're always happy. You smile. You're so loving. I love your eyebrows. I've got a visual dashboard now. You change every day based on how I feel, and that's great. And where's the psychological safety in that? Tell us about your years of research into this, Jumana and Lisa.
Well, it's not talking to the bot. It's not talking to Zanie. And one of the most important things to realize is that we take great care to make sure we do not anthropomorphize Zanie. We're not asking you to spill your guts to Zanie. We are asking you to talk to the people you're working with, the people you're supposed to be engaged with in a team. So think of a dinner party. Think of icebreakers that people use in team building exercises. Think of any scenario in which a group of people is supposed to converse, to build bonds, to build relationships. The way that happens is through conversation with each other, is about learning about each other, is about an exchange of information. So psychological safety is becoming more and more well-known as a term. What it fundamentally means is that a team, a group of people, feel safe in each other's presence to take interpersonal risks. They feel like they can be themselves. They can feel like they can have a bad day and not be penalized for it. They feel like they can throw out a crazy idea and not be ridiculed for it. It's the idea that a group of people is willing to listen with an open heart, open eyes, open mind to a different perspective, to a person with a different lived experience. And the only way you get to that shared lived experience is by talking to each other, is by actually exchanging information. And part of why Zanie is built on reciprocal progressive self-disclosure, again, which is, in a lot of ways antithetical to how the internet currently works, is that trust and this feeling, these bonds, this feeling of psychological safety only happens at a group level. It doesn't happen if I'm only talking and it's a one-way street. It only happens if the group chooses to participate. So part of what's built in here is once you peel away the superficial layers of an onion that everybody sees, once you get past the regular banter, it's really important, if I'm going to be vulnerable, for you to be willing to be vulnerable too, in small micro moments. We're not talking about going from 1 to 0. We're talking about going on a journey together as a team of self and other exploration. We're talking about an opportunity to learn about somebody else and yourself in the same process. And in doing so, get a sense of what this group, this actual organism is like, what makes it work, where does it need support? When part of it is struggling, how does the rest of the group show up? That's what psychological safety is. And that's why we've built Zanie to be not a place to go and vent, not a place to go and, give kudos. All of those things are important and they have their place and they're good. The role of Zanie is to say, even when they are all behind the screens, even when you're not seeing them, even when their name is just showing up highlighted in bold on the left-hand side of your screen or on the top of your screen or whatever it is, there is an ocean of information. There are layers upon layers upon layers behind that two-dimensional name that you see. So take a moment to learn one thing. It's not too much to ask.
And tell us, Lisa, where did these questions come from? Why are they so simple but so important and so weighty, and they sort of strike at the core of conversation? Where do they come from?
You're muted.
I'm muted, yes. Conversation is easier when you can hear me. A lot of them come from, a lot of them, existed before I arrived at Zanie. And I think that I was able to add to the conversation because I came from a background of interviewing people already, and specifically interviewing them. I come from a background in comedy, and I had a podcast that was a live talk show where I would ask people questions about their childhood. And, because of the setting, because people would show up to this show ready to be vulnerable, I could ask them kind of weird, eccentric things, and they came ready to share because the context was there. Okay, we're coming on stage to reveal strange things. And I'd spent 5 years doing that. And so I realized that there are certain buttons that you can push where people want to share because it's interesting. It's not a basic question. Or if it's a basic question, there's a twist on it. There's something in the question that makes you immediately have a visceral opinion. And we all come up with them together. It's not just me, but the idea is that it's varied, and that the different questions can help different types of brains shine depending what they are. If they're logic based, if they're pathos based, if they're values based. The idea is that everybody has an opportunity to speak to something that in a way that they feel strongest.
Yeah, the questions are a really, really important part of the experience. I mean, again, it's a very, very simple thing, but it's so important. I mean, they come from life. They come from philosophy. They come from entertainment. They come from logic. A lot of, we're hearing a lot about whole personhood and the importance of not separating life from work and work from life and home from work and all of those kinds of things, and work-life balance. And the truth of the matter is all of those blend together. That's not saying that certain things you can keep private or want to keep private or could be kept private, but the idea is that there's more to us. There are multitudes more to us than what is seen through the work that we do. So, Aristotle, one of the major influences, it says, like, if you really want to connect with somebody, if you want to create meaning, and if you want to create a relationship or a kind of bond, you have to understand not just how somebody thinks. You have to understand what they believe, whether or not you agree with what they believe. You have to see whether you have any shared experiences. How are they different from you? How are they similar from you? How does that impact how they approach a project versus you? How does their brain work? And so a lot of our questions are designed to say, okay, some of our questions will help you express your values. Some of our questions will help you show how your brain works. Some of our questions will help you, show what you enjoy and what scares you, what puzzles you. And all of those questions are actually ranked in the back end across a big matrix, because part of it is, like we said, this is a journey, right? So you have to start with things that are easy to answer, things that are simple, things that are lubricants, like we said. And then as you progress, you're more comfortable exchanging more information. And maybe you're also more comfortable making more time and more space to share more of yourself. So we rank them along, not just what aspect of personhood is this question designed to bring out, but also how challenging is it? How challenging is it to process? How challenging is it to express? And this is another thing. It's a different thing to talk about something with somebody live versus typing out a whole story. So that's another thing that we think about. There's a big sort of in the back end, there's a lot of thought put into figuring out how to present questions, whether they're personality questions or intellect questions or logic questions or values questions. And initially your question, I've gone a long way to answer a simple question, but we source some of our questions from life, like I said, and that includes interview questions, that include hiring questions, that includes human resource questions, that includes questions designed by writers who are working on building their characters. It includes, we've sourced them. We didn't have to make up questions because questions are all around us. What we needed to do was organize them in a manner that would make sense in a new sort of digital artificial space.
Right. And then it's also the journey that we devise, right? It's not, some of the questions, as Jumana mentioned, there is a progression to the questions. They get deeper, they get more intimate, they get more revealing as you go on. But there's also, we try to make sure that it's not monotonous for the user. We try to put in a lot of variety in terms of the types of questions and the mechanisms of the questions. So in some cases, there might be multiple choice. In some cases, it's a description. In some cases, a little bit more fun with images and whatnot. It's very important for us that, this should not feel like a chore for the people that are engaging with it. They really should feel like it's something that they're looking forward to interacting. And it's not, it's not very demanding. It's just one question a week. It's one conversation a week. And if they answer the question, they can enter into the private discussion channel. And of course, if they don't answer, then they miss out on that team building with and seeing how everybody else answered the same question. So yeah, that variety is something which is very important for us as well.